kids. It occurs to me that there is not a video out there, and this is like my first foray into making a video that is dice related. I haven't seen any molds like this for dice yet, and I think that there would be an interest, so I'm going to do this. Anyway, so this is a cap mold that's also kind of a hybrid. There's an indentation right here. This is a cap mold that is a hybrid sprue mold. You don't really fill the mold with resin from the sprue. You fill the mold through that hole right there. But it's great because you can place things in it or do Petri style dice, or suspend things in it, and it gives you a lot of control. And then the cap makes things very, very crisp and clean. But I created a reservoir in here, and I'm gonna do a video on how to make this entire thing. To start with, the materials that I use are high density polyethylene. I think it's what it's called, HDPE. It's attainable via the interwebs, and the particular mold that I used that I made used these squares, and so I'm going to show you how I put these together, and then hopefully you'll be able to do this for yourself. And here we go. All right, so I've got my HDPE high density polyethylene material. This stuff is 1/8 of an inch thick, and it comes in, well, I mean, you can get it in different places. I got it in that place where everybody gets stuff that I don't want to say the name of, because this is one of my first videos and I'm not sure if I could say the name of it. But anyway, it came in a sheet that was, I think, 2 feet by 1.5 feet, and it's 1/8 of an inch thick, and I want to say it was like $15-16 to get shipped, and it was, I mean, it's not that expensive. The way that I cut this, and I might do a video on that if there's enough interest once I post this video, is that I measured it out, and I used a Sharpie, and I drew lines, and then a heavy razor blade scored the lines, and then just snapped. And so this is what it comes up with. So in this particular case, I have 3 squares, and then I have 2 pieces that are not quite squares, and then I have a hot glue gun, which is hot right now, as you can see. There's pieces dripping off it. This is a craft store hot glue gun. Super cheap. I don't have an expensive one or a cool one. I'd like to get an expensive and a cool one, but this is what I got. So hot glue is great for using on HDPE because it doesn't stick that well, but it does stick fairly well enough to get this mold made, but also it unsticks really, really well, which you'll see later on in this video. So what I do, and this is key, is that I hold my edges like this. I hold them so that they become flush, and then I take the hot glue, and on the outside I create what welders call a bead, and it creates its little spider webs and stuff, and that bead will harden very soon, and hopefully it'll be in close to a right angle, and then we can do the rest. So these are it should be noted, by the way, that these 2 squares, so I have 3 equals, actually these 3 right here, I have 3 equal squares, and then this one is more of a rectangle. So the rectangle is going to go like this, which is going to help me, well, let's try it that way. Trying to do a good angle for the camera. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, hold it in place. And this time I'm going to make little just, I'm going to put little beads of hot glue just so it'll tack in place. And I'm running out of glue, so I'll take the glue stick and I'll feed it into the hot glue gun and we will continue. So I will put a little tiny dot there and a little tiny dot in the corner and another dot there, just to sort of tack it, as they say, in place. And I'll let that cool off so that I could tack up the rest of it. Alright, so that one is sort of tacked there, and I'm going to take the other rectangle and hold it in place. And again, we're going to hold it right where it needs to go. And I'm going to do a little tiny dot right there. And I'm going to do a dot right there. And I'm going to do a dot right there. Just to have a little bit of a bead of hot glue right where it needs to go. And then we're going to wait until it hardens or cools and put on the final piece. And then I'm going to run lots and lots of lines all the way around this thing, because we need it to be leak proof, because silicone likes to spread out using gravity all over the place. So if your seams are all nice and tight, then it's all going to be really, really good. And you're not going to make a mess inside your pressure pot, because yes, I'm going to put this in a pressure pot when the silicone is in here and curing. So finally, we're going to do a little piece right here, and that goes on the end. And I'm going to tack this bad boy in place right here. So let's do that. So one tack, and number two right down there. And then I'm going to do, oh, see, that's going to happen. But that's okay, because we're tacking at this moment, so it's not going to be a bad thing. Everything is fine. All right, and then I'm going to tack this over here, and I'm going to tack that over there. And we're going to just wait for this to set in place. And basically I have a cube with an open end on it now. Okay, now that my tacking points are done, I'm going to see if I can see. The inside is very, very, very clean. There's nothing really out of the ordinary inside. The outside is going to be really ugly in a moment. So I'm going to seal up every seam on this mold with hot glue. Seal up every seam that I possibly can. Without doing so, your silicone will leak out of it and make a giant mess in your pressure pot. So go ahead and be liberal with this stuff. It's cheap, and you're going to get a great mold out of it. So between the high density polyethylene and hot glue, it's good stuff. But do all of your, make sure you do your corners. You don't want to leave or forget anything. And then what we're going to do is we're going to trim up the bottom, by the way. I just got a little bit on me. This is low temperature stuff. Craft hot glue is not going to cause you a super amount of pain, but if it does, well, don't get it on your fingers, because it hurts. Anyway, here we go. Because you're going to have to do this twice. Using hot glue is the key, and using it on the outside. Otherwise, I would have used it on the edges of the high density polyethylene to, glue the edge to the surface that I was gluing it to, but we don't want that because it'll stick better to the edges than it will to the outside, and we want it not to stick that well. Sticking well is a bad thing. If it sticks too well, then it's not going to come apart, and we want it to come apart. Alright, so this is it, but it's all goopy. See that? Look at how goopy that is. That's so goopy. Some of it we want it to be goopy, and other parts of it we don't necessarily. So I'll show you how I trim that up.